All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the operating system and really dig into some of the hidden structures that manage and, isolate applications right inside of Windows. It's a really cool story that takes us from simple process control all the way to the foundations of modern cloud tech.
Okay, so let's just dive right into this, because the answer, it really reveals this fascinating evolution deep inside the OS. Think about it like this. It's one thing to keep a group of kids in the same room, but it's something else entirely to give them each their own separate playpen. And that concept, right there, powers so much of our digital world.
So, we all know what a single running application looks like, right? You open up Task Manager, and there it is, one process. Simple enough. But things get complicated and fast when one program needs to launch a whole bunch of helper processes just to get its job done. How in the world do you manage all of those as a single thing? Well, this is what developers call the herding cats problem. Just imagine a complex program, say a web browser or a coding environment, that's spinning up all these different helper processes. If you want to shut it down cleanly, you got to hunt down every single one. If you want to limit how much CPU it's using, you have to somehow coordinate that across all of them. It is a genuine headache for developers and for the operating system itself.
So, to solve this exact problem, Windows engineers came up with this really powerful and honestly elegant tool called the job object. It's one of those brilliant, fundamental pieces hidden deep inside the system that just makes everything work better.
Seriously, think of it like a digital playpen. You can gather up a bunch of related processes and just drop them inside this job object. And once they're in there, you don't have to worry about them individually anymore. You can apply rules and actions to the whole group at once just by controlling the playpen.
So the crucial point here, the big takeaway, is control. You can literally say, hey, no process in this job can use more than 20% of the CPU combined. Or, with just one command, you terminate the job, and poof, every single process inside it is gone. Shut down, instantly, cleanly. It's an incredibly efficient way to handle these complex apps.
But what if just managing them isn't enough? I mean, grouping processes is great for control, but what if you need to build actual walls between different groups so they can't see each other, can't interfere with each other at all? This is absolutely essential for security and stability, especially on servers.
And this brings us to the next evolutionary step. We're moving from the job object, which is all about management, to something called a server silo, which is all about isolation. See, a job object groups processes together, but they still share the same general view of the system. A server silo, that's different. It creates a kind of virtualized bubble around a group of processes, basically tricking them into thinking they have the whole computer to themselves.
So how does Windows actually build these virtual walls? Well, the answer is this concept called the server silo, and it takes the whole idea of a job object to a completely new level. In fact, the Windows documentation has the absolute perfect term for it: a super job. I mean, that just captures it perfectly, right? A silo doesn't replace a job object, it's an evolution of it. It takes a standard job object as its foundation, and then just builds these powerful layers of isolation right on top. And this is the silo's magic. Processes inside get their own little virtualized world, a separate virtual registry, their own custom view of the system's objects, but they all still share the same single Windows kernel. And that's the key difference. It makes these silos so much more lightweight and efficient than a full virtual machine, which has to boot up an entire separate operating system from scratch.
Okay, so this is some really fascinating deep-down OS architecture, but why is it so important for us right now? Beyond just being interesting, what does this super job actually enable out in the real world?
Well, because this technology, these server silos, they are the direct foundation for one of the absolute biggest shifts in modern software development and cloud computing that we've seen in the last decade.
That's right. When you run a Windows container, or you use Docker on Windows, what you're actually using, deep down, is a server silo. The entire containerization model on Windows, this whole revolutionary way of packaging and deploying apps, is built directly on top of this super job concept that grew out of that humble little job object.
So the next time you use a sandboxed application, or you interact with some cloud service, just remember the hidden architecture that's at play. It all started with the basic need to herd those process cats with a job object, and it evolved into creating these fully isolated environments with server silos. This fundamental building block is quietly powering way more of our technology than we ever get to see.
Help me out, please smash that like button, leave a random comment and subscribe if you want to become a better hacker.